Today we're looking at the moment when siege warfare stopped being about bravery and started being about engineering and physics. We're going to see why less individual skill was needed to destroy stronger walls. Why fewer men were suddenly enough to cause greater destruction. How distance stopped protecting defenders and began protecting attackers instead. And how these machines didn't just change battles, they changed the very idea of refuge itself. This is the story of the machines that made walls irrelevant. Chapter 1. When walls meant safety. For most of human history, walls meant survival. Not because they were indestructible, but because they reshaped the logic of violence itself. Stone created separation between attacker and defender. Height created dominance. Thickness created time. A castle did not exist to destroy an army. It existed to delay it. As long as the wall stood, the defender controlled the rhythm of war. The attacker waited outside, exposed to weather, hunger, disease, and fatigue. The defender waited behind stone, protected, supplied, and elevated. Walls slowed violence. They absorbed it. They transformed chaos into patience. This is why castles shaped power for centuries. Kings ruled because walls stood. Cities survived because stone promised refuge. For generations, that promise held, until war learned how to break it. Chapter 2. The question that changed everything. The revolution of siege warfare did not begin with a battle. It began with a question. What if the attacker no longer tried to overcome the wall, but instead tried to make the wall irrelevant? This idea shattered centuries of military thinking. Attackers stopped asking how to climb higher, how to fight harder, how to endure longer. They began asking something colder. How does stone fail? From that moment on, siege warfare stopped being a contest of courage and became a problem of physics. Mass force, repetition. Walls were no longer shields, they were structural limits. Chapter 3. Moving the impossible. Siege machines did not arrive ready for battle. They arrived as fragments. Engines like the Helepolis and the Trebuchet were dismantled, hauled across hostile terrain, dragged by animals and men, and rebuilt within sight of the walls they were meant to destroy. This was engineering under constant threat. Timber had to be cut locally. Iron had to be forged and fitted precisely. Measurements had to be exact, because failure meant collapse. All of this happened while defenders watched from above, fully aware that every beam and bolt was part of their own destruction. The siege began weeks before the first stone was launched. Logistics became a weapon. The army that could move the impossible controlled the outcome before combat ever began. Chapter 4. Helepolis, the city that walked. The Helepolis was not just a siege engine, it was a declaration. Its name meant exactly what it was built to do. Taker of cities, towering multiple stories high, iron-plated to resist fire, mounted on massive wheels, the Helepolis was a fortress in motion. Inside it, artillery filled every level. Catapults hurled stone. Bolt throwers suppressed defenders on the walls. As it advanced, it did not rush, it did not charge. It moved forward slowly, deliberately. For the first time, defenders watched protection move toward them. This was not an army attacking a city. It was a city attacking a city. Chapter 5. When protection started moving forward. Walls had always relied on stillness. They waited while attackers exhausted themselves below. The Helepolis reversed this logic. Now the attacker advanced under cover, while the defender waited behind stone. Waiting no longer meant safety. It meant helplessness. The psychological impact was profound. The wall was no longer the highest thing on the battlefield. Protection no longer belonged exclusively to the defender. Fear changed sides. Chapter 6. When distance became a weapon. Distance once favored the castle. Archers fired downward. Attackers advanced exposed. Siege machines inverted this relationship. With trebuchets, distance became protection for the attacker. The further away the machine stood, the safer it was. The defender could see the weapon being prepared. He could hear the wood creak and the counterweight rise, but he could not reach it. For the first time, destruction came from beyond retaliation. Distance no longer protected the wall, it protected the one dismantling it. Chapter 7. Trebuchet, gravity as a weapon. If the Helepolis introduced terror, the trebuchet introduced inevitability. Earlier, machines relied on muscle and coordination. They were powerful, but inconsistent. The trebuchet removed humans from the equation. A massive counterweight, a long arm, a sling. Once released, gravity decided everything. No fatigue, no hesitation, no emotion. Stones weighing hundreds of kilograms rose into the air and fell with crushing certainty. Walls cracked, towers split, not from rage, from repetition. Chapter 8. When physics replaced valor. This was the end of heroic defense. Courage could not stop gravity. Skill could not deflect mass. A veteran soldier died the same way as a novice when a stone fell from the sky. War stopped asking who was braver. It started asking how much force stone could endure. Valor no longer decided survival. Physics did. Chapter 9. When engineers became as valuable as soldiers. This transformation elevated a new class within armies. Engineers. They chose where machines were built. They calculated angles, weights, and distances. They determined how long a wall would last. Their knowledge mattered more than numbers. A single engineer could decide the outcome of a siege before the army ever marched. War was now decided in measurements, not melee. Chapter 10. When skill and courage started to matter less. As machines dominated, the role of the individual diminished. Before, defense relied on archers, veterans, reflexes, and endurance. Now death came from systems. The trebuchet did not care who stood beneath it. Experience did not matter. Training did not matter. The battlefield became impersonal. Men were no longer tested individually. They were exposed collectively. Chapter 11. Fewer men, same destruction. This shift changed the mathematics of war. Fewer soldiers were needed on the front lines, yet destruction increased. Sieges became quieter, deadlier, more efficient. Less blood was spilled in direct combat, but far more damage was inflicted over time. This was not mercy, it was efficiency, and efficiency does not hesitate. Chapter 12. The first time. Walls felt fear. The first castles to face these machines felt something new. Not fear of soldiers, fear of failure. Walls had always been certainty. Now they cracked. Every impact carried the same message. This shelter is temporary. Fear entered the stone long before the breach. Chapter 13. Defending against the inevitable. Defenders adapted. Walls grew thicker, lower, angled. Bastions replaced towers. Defense became active rather than passive. The goal was no longer victory. It was delay. Architecture itself admitted defeat before the battle even began. Chapter 14. When waiting no longer worked. Waiting had once been the castle's greatest strength. Now it was its weakness. Art no longer favored the defender. Every hour meant loss. The siege was no longer endurance. It was a countdown. Chapter 15. Engineering Before Blood. By this point, war was decided before the first death. Plans, calculations, logistics. Bloodshed became the final step, not the deciding one. Engineering won the war before soldiers ever fought it. Chapter 16. Why these machines changed war forever. The Helepolis proved protection could move. The trebuchet proved gravity could be commanded. Together, they destroyed the oldest illusion in warfare. That stone could keep violence out. Walls did not disappear. But they stopped ruling war. From this moment on, conflict belonged to engineers. And once war learned that lesson, it never forgot it.